is up, RotoGrinders? Dean here. The start of 2 hours of nonstop NBA DFS conversation, taking y'all straight up the lock, straight up the tip-off, 7 o'clock on the East Coast. More games than usual on a Thursday night. 7, and it's kind of like broken down, 5 and 2. Both sites agreed to keep the late game, so we are getting Sacramento Golden State playing in the back half of a back-to-back, and the Bulls versus the Lakers. The Lakers, of course, doing us all sorts of favors by labeling both LeBron and AD with the Q tag. We just got a refresh as far as our projections. I wonder if we're still getting 5 or 6 Jasmine in every single lineup, or many lineups in optimals, which is kind of hilarious. But we'll discuss that amongst other things. Joining me today, TJ. TJ Zwarich. You know him as one of the greatest players in all of Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. I feel like we haven't been on a show in a while, TJ. It's good to have you back in the rotation. I guess so. You're too good for Crunch Time. You know, you're too good for a GrindersLive. You spend a lot of your time on Crunch Time, but a lot of time on the weekend as well too. You're knocking stuff out, but and I think you're doing movie stuff as well. You're jumping all over the place, flying around the states and pumping up your site. But what's up, TJ? Good to have you.
Doing well. Yeah. Nice to be back on. It's been a while. That's absolutely it. You nailed it. I'm just simply too good for GrindersLive now, but I'll come back. I'll come back with a little people every now and then. No, I'm just kidding. After I adjusted my player pool, I hit the optimize button just to see what I got. And every single player except for Joel Embiid was from the Jazz in the optimize I did after I adjusted my player pool. So yeah, pretty crazy stuff today, but looking forward to diving into it.
Yeah, so I just hit optimize stuff, and I add a little bit of bells and whistles, like I'm sure you are as well. I'm adding some variants, and I'm locking no player more than I guess I capped it at 69%. No particular reason why I chose that, but that is literally what I chose. First, optimal on DK. Of course, on FanDuel you cannot get more than 4 Jazz players, and just a little bit of a different build over there. And the Jazz are more accessible. They're just cheaper when you're comparing shopping around on DK versus FanDuel. Just 2 Jazz players on the first FanDuel optimal. Mike Conley, former Jazzman, may not even play tonight, currently questionable. But the very first one I have has 6 Jazz players. The next one has 5. I did see the 7 one earlier. And again, that maybe I just kind of like somehow that it's probably somewhere in there. It's 7 Jazz players and Joel Embiid. Can you figure out what 7? That's what it is, right, TJ?
Yeah. That was the one that I got when I clicked optimize after like adjusting my player pool. I bumped up Embiid's projection a little bit to make sure I get as much of him as possible. And that was the one I got.
We got Bobby Gomes, former $1 million winner. Bobby, how are things for you on a Thursday night? Ready to knock out this? It's a 7-gamer. We got 2 late games. I know it's also kind of sort of past your bedtime, the Laker lock, and you're going to be a little bit. I don't know if you have a nap plan between like 8 and 9 or 10 o'clock, but you got to tough it out. You got to be able to stay up tonight. You got some coffee brewing.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be held off with this LeBron news currently. So the Q tags are every day with the Lakers, right? So I would imagine I should have realized when I seen the game time, and then LeBron missing the last game, and now maybe it's AD's turn. I feel like that might be what we're going to see here tonight. Hopefully not, but
they both participated in shoot around for what it's worth.
I think they both play. My best guess is they both play. It's an island game for them. Like, it's not like you're resting them in the back half of a back-to-back. They didn't play yesterday. They're not playing tomorrow. They still kind of need to win some games, the Lakers. I know that the Lakers did rest LeBron last time, and I feel like it's something he's sort of like managing. Whatever, is it a toe? I can't remember what his body part is off the top of my head. But I suspect both play. But certainly it's an ankle for LeBron officially, and Achilles for Davis. Reddish also out for the Lakers. The other game, Golden State's playing the back half of a back-to-back, but I don't think they're going to be resting. They of course, were well-rested coming in to last night, not playing the last 9 days or so. Sacramento is taking on Golden State, and I believe this is they're an island game as well too, and their injury report is clean. But is that kind of how you're building, Bobby, or you think it's going to matter a ton? Obviously, if you have one or the other, make a plan and just if one plays, they get elevated, and you swap one to the other one. You want to use the utility spots if possible, the forward spots. That makes it much easier. But do you have an official plan when it comes to potentially some goofiness from the Lakers?
That seems like the plan when I play these Lakers. I will say with the Jazz, and 4 to 6 of them hitting optimals. I think making your rules around that. And if you want Washington run backs, if you get max 3 of like Markkanen, Sexton, Clarkson, or the higher price Jazz, they're all pretty much underpriced. I think that's why they're hitting everything. But for that reason, just trying to get that right. And I'm with TJ. I love Embiid on the slate. Like, Embiid's been incredible. 105 fantasy points. What was it the other night? So
70 burgers? Did he score 70? I think he scored 70, right? Am I right in saying that?
70, 72, 70. Either way, he's just been incredible. So he's on the path for another MVP season. I think this one will be the real MVP season because last year probably should have won Jokic. But yeah, I want to get to Embiid tonight. I think those Sacramento guys, like you talked about, are pretty important too. Fox and Sabonis. So we'll cover everything as we go through game by game.
Yeah, and there's also a chance like Tobias might not play tonight. He's currently questionable. Morris is currently questionable. The matchup against the Pacers, of course, is spectacular. His over under in the sports books, Joel Embiid, you don't see a number this high as far as over under for points, just points only, 36.5. And our projections have over for what it's worth. RG projections like the over on 36.5 points taking on these Pacers. Yeah, Embiid looks spectacular for sure. The only thing that might hold him back, or one of the things that might hold him back for as far as MVP, the main thing, he might not qualify. He's got to play 65 games, and he's already missed, 7 or 8 or something like that. One of the new rules. He's actually been spectacular this year, but the issue with him is that he might fall out of qualification when it comes to MVP stuff. TJ, that's kind of the crux of the slate, right? How many Jazz is too many Jazz, and Jazz rules. I think that's one of the most important things. Of course, the slate can get flipped on its head. More news can come in, some stuff that we aren't necessarily expecting. I do have Twitter open, trying to keep an eye on if things are falling for us, but just getting news for tomorrow's slate. Hartenstein's questionable. I don't think that's like a slate breaker. Kevin Love is questionable, not a slate breaker. Boston versus Miami. Boston's going to be fully healthy. I think they've been healthy, but just resting guys because they can. But yeah, Mike Conley is questionable, which could change things a little bit as far as Minnesota value. The Pacers are just such a mess with Halliburton being out, playing their 11-man rotations. Jalen Smith getting ruled out in the middle of the game, I think for the second time this season. Happened last time. They've done that a couple times there with Jalen Smith. So just, goofy stuff all around. Do we see anything that's going to potentially break the slate outside of like just going to come out of nowhere, TJ? But otherwise, there's really not a lot. Tobias Harris, I guess if he gets ruled out, but like who gets elevated? Who gets the big bump? I think we have an if then for that, but nobody really comfortable. Like Batum probably would hit some lineups. I don't say that with confidence.
I think it just makes me like Tyrese Maxey and Joel Embiid even more if Harris is out. The ancillary pieces, I don't think I'm going to get too much, but it would secure, I think, more minutes and some more usage for Kelly Oubre. And so he's probably the guy I'd be most likely to go to outside of Embiid and Maxey. I've done a build like a shell 150 build. I'm playing one cash lineup today, and then I'm playing 150. And I ended with 69% Embiid, pretty nice. And then I got only 12% Maxey and 6% Embiids, and 6% Oubre, and that's without putting any minimum exposures on them.
Yeah, we have the FN set up, and Oubre, if we happen to see Harris sit, would have a projection of 30 DK, 30 FanDuel points, and he would become pretty appealing. 5.2 on DK, 5.3 on FanDuel looks really, really good. Because again, value is a little bit trickier over there on FanDuel. It is tough to make lineups you like over there.
What would Maxey's be?
Maxey would pop as well. I just jumped away from it. His projection would be 47 DK, 45 FanDuel, 38 minutes. Median projection there. Of course, the matchup versus Indiana.
He's already projected for 38 minutes.
Yeah. I guess you can't give him any more. We've talked about it. What's the dude for Toronto? Your old coach,
Nurse.
What's his? Yeah, Nurse. Like I wanted to call him Brown, the former coach there of Philadelphia, but that's obviously a different guy. But yeah, Nurse is from the school of Tibbs, where he does not care. He will play you as many minutes as he sees fit. But his usage would go up. His projection, Maxi's projection, would be 47 and 45 plus. So it'll go up a little bit incrementally. It's already really, really high, right? Yeah, it's at 44 currently. So you gain a couple projection points. Do you want to say what's up to the chat? Kindly hit that like button. Do subscribe. Turn on those notifications. TJ, you were in your wrong YouTube account. I see.
I was
a Fandom show earlier today.
I was posting our Percy Jackson breakdown on the Agents of Fandom account this morning. Like we recorded it yesterday, then I get it out today, and I forgot to on my laptop switch back to my account. I would honestly I would keep it there more often and just like use that more often, but I can't hit the like button from the Agents of Fandom account for some reason. But I don't know, weird enough. So I switched back. For what it's worth, I just adjusted to the what if projections of having Tobias Harris out, because typically when somebody misses shoot around, I just don't expect them to play. I'm still not getting a ton of Maxi, only 15%, but I'm now getting 50% Kelly Oubre.
Yep, you're gonna get a lot of Oubre, and we'll know this at some point. Like the Sixers are full jerks. They will wait as long as possible to tell us that Adam Silver, despite being partners with FanDuel and DraftKings and all the sports books and all, he doesn't care. He doesn't want to enforce his rules when it comes to putting out lineups and injury information. The only time we get Philadelphia news, like real Philadelphia news, is when they officially tweet it out on their Twitter account and give you the starting lineup. Otherwise, they don't care about you. But yeah, that's a 7:00 game, so we will know at some point. But just thankfully that one's not at 10 o'clock or so. Or I guess not thankfully, because if you're playing a bunch of lineups, you can have all the routes set up or just kind of backload and some good game theory stuff. All right. Bobby, you got anything else that we should talk about? Anything else we should focus on when it comes to the slate before we fully dive in, do the old game by game deal?
Now let's get into the game by game deal, Dean.
All right, so let's just do it. Let's talk about the Jazz. The Jazz are taking on the Wizards. 246 is the total. They have a team total of 127. They're 7-point favorites. And one of the interesting things about this, as far as Utah popping so incredibly, they're fully healthy. A fully healthy Utah Jazz team that has one of the most erratic rotations in all of basketball. The ones you can trust Markkanen's going to get his minutes, and you can trust Clarkson's going to get his minutes, probably Sexton. But the rest of it is all kind of sort of wishy-washy, 6 minutes here, 7 minutes there, plus or minus. It feels like something you should, of course, play Jazz players. By the way, you should say Washington fully healthy as well. Just Isaiah Livers, who's got a hip. He's not going to play. But, yeah, let's have this conversation, Bobby. Utah is the team that I just don't like trusting the projected number. It's just impossible to project some of these players because you just don't know. I think the most important thing we should focus on is like how many Jasmines, too many Jasmine, what sort of rules are we implementing, who correlates negatively, right? How are you attacking Utah? Because again, if we're running some stuff, this is more of a DK conversation than a FanDuel conversation, but 5, 6, 7, sometimes 7 Jazz players are hitting optimals. The most popular players on my optimals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The top 6 are players that play for the Utah Jazz. Bobby, how are you handling Utah?
Yeah, so for me currently, I'm probably going to be a little bit on the lighter side of Utah. Obviously, I'm going to have a ton of Utah regardless, but we can poke holes in them, right? Like the rotations are crazy. Some of these guys, they're more pricing plays than anything else. Obviously, Washington Wizards is a great pricing matchup. But for me, like right now I have at least 2 and no more than 4 when every optimal is hitting 5 or 6. I'm interested in hearing TJ's in like what his thoughts are on that and where he's going. But in terms of what's concrete, I think Lauri Markkanen's in a incredible spot, like bottom 9 in transition defense, not protecting at the rim, the Wizards. So it's like a fantastic matchup for rebounds, best in the league. I just think Lauri at 8K is probably going to be the highest on the slate, and it's highest owned player on the slate, and it's justified for sure. And these other guys, Sexton's been playing incredible. I think he had 37 DK points the other night. Jordan Clarkson. I'm making a rule between Lauri, Clarkson, and Sexton. If I get all 3, I'm running it back with one of these Wizards, whether it be Kuzma or Denny Avdija, Jordan Poole. I guess you can throw in that mix. But that's more of a like 150 situation with Jordan Poole. Definitely would prefer Kuzma and Avdija and smaller field stuff. John Collins is there at 5K. Simone Fontecchio, small forward, power forward. It's always one of the weaker positions, so you can get to him. Chris Dunn's probably my favorite value of all of them, point guard, small forward. And then you have Walker Kessler, who he's starting to play more. We're seeing like a kind of a switch, I guess, between him and Olynyk, because Olynyk was playing all those minutes previously, and now we have Kessler's minutes bumped up. So Kessler's fine. He's at 4.9. I think you can throw Kelly in the mix at power forward center, but he would probably be the last for me of the Utah value guys that I would have interest in.
So ownership wise on DK, currently 35% for Markkanen, 33 for Sexton, 30 for Clarkson, Dunn 25, Kessler 22, Fontecchio 21, Collins 20, Olynyk 19, Keontae George just 12% for Keontae George, 4K Keontae George, and nobody's going to play Agbaji, about 1% or so. Rules are certainly important here, TJ. I'm curious if you implemented a bunch of rules. We were talking about putting in rules in the Discord channel, RotoGrinders.com/Discord. There are channels for every single sport in the NBA chat room. Myself and Keith and a bunch of other users were hanging out talking about this and how to handle the Jazz tonight. It's free, by the way. It doesn't cost you anything. Just need an RG account. Doesn't need to be a paid account, just a regular RG account. Just check it out when, throughout the day. If you're sitting around making lineups at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, whatever time it may be, there are other people doing the same thing and join the conversation at rotogrinders.com/Discord. Jump in the NBA room. The one clear and obvious one to me, TJ, is no more than one of Collins and Kessler. They played like 25 minutes all together all season long. I think that's the absolute first one you got to put in. But I'm curious. Tell me if you agree or disagree with that one. And then just your rules for Utah. Do you have a bunch of rules set up for the Jazz tonight?
So I sort of agree with you on that one because I agree with it, but I want to add on more. So I didn't do a max one of just those two. I did an exactly one of Collins, Kessler, and Olynyk.
Okay.
So I added Olynyk to it, and I want one of them exactly, min one, max one, in every single lineup that I play. I did a max 2 of Colin Sexton, Jordan Clarkson, and Chris Dunn. What else did I do here?
By the way, not to. I was talking to Keith about this too, and I'm not saying you have to break this rule. Your rule is bad, but Collins and Kelly O have played together for 386 minutes this year. Kelly O and Kessler have played together for 291 minutes. So I think you can, and I understand what you're doing. If you want the one guy that rises, but I think you can play 2 of those 3. But it's fine. These are your rules.
I don't disagree with what you said. For me, it's just more about I'm playing a max 4 Jazz in my tournament lineups today. Currently, I would break any rule in cash. Currently, my cash lineup has 6 Jazz. We'll see if that stands. But currently, my my cash has 6 Jazz.
Embiid and who? 6 Jazz, Embiid and who? Right? That's what it is. 6 Jazz, Embiid and somebody. Yeah.
And so that's exactly where.
It's Kelly Oubre. That's who it is. It's got to be Kelly Oubre.
It's not right now, but if we get what's his face out, it will be. If we get Tobias Harris confirmed out, I'll definitely make sure I get Oubre in my cash lineup. And so in my back to the groups I have though, I have 1 to 2 of Sexton, Clarkson, and Chris Dunn in every lineup. I did X out Keontae George, which so watch this end up just being Keontae George day. Even though I have 1 to 2 of the other 3 of them. But then I have max 1 of Dunn and Fontecchio. I just kind of feel like only one of them will get enough minutes to have a ceiling game. And then that's it. That's all I have on them.
Why did George get the X?
Got to draw the line somewhere.
Yeah. I'm sorry. You said your max was 4 in tournaments for Utah?
Yeah.
Did you say minimum 2 or that just happens? I know Bobby said minimum 2.
It's going to happen organically. Yeah. And then I didn't set that in the specific build rules section, but I have exactly 1 of Collins, Kessler, Olynyk, and then I have a minimum 1 of Sexton, Clarkson, Dunn. So I created that within the groups.
Bobby, what do you make of these rules? You said you're curious what TJ had to say. Well, what do you make of what he had to say?
I just copied literally all of them.
You're just copying, hopefully the smart person next to you on the spelling bee or whatever. There you go. But yeah, I think those rules are pretty good.
You have to defer, Dean. You have to defer,
I did just add George to the pool too, and I'm just going to make a rule that if I'm playing George, I'm not playing like a max one of any of those other guys, but I don't like it.
Well, since Steve is putting it on the screen, Wendy's Balls wants to know, and if anybody's going to halt the show, it's Wendy's Balls. And I don't know why Wendy's Balls is asking me specifically, but Wendy's Balls is asking me, Dean, is Bobby single? I feel like you can just directly ask Bobby, but okay, Bobby, I haven't got the update. I don't follow you on
very
Facebook.
Far from single. Very far from single at this point.
Did not think so. And if you weren't, like something had to terribly happen, and then you probably don't want to talk about it. Yeah. So what are the runbacks? You were talking about forcing runbacks, Bobby. I think if you're playing like the 3 top players on Utah. And the other thing is, I'm curious, like, do we have to run back players? Because Washington's not a fun team to get runbacks on, or just roster players on as a general thought. But yeah, well, I'm curious what your runbacks are here, Bobby. Most popular player currently is your boy, Denny. Well, I mean, some people say Denny Avdia. The chat was having a fun Avdia celebrates, according to Derek, having some fun with Denny Avdia. But he's the most popular run back there for Washington at 16%. Kispert, not a comfortable roster at all, getting some ownership. Tyus Jones, theoretically on the trade block. At some point he should get shipped out. Kuzma's always there, but he's expensive. What are you doing here, Bobby, as far as the Washington runbacks?
Yeah, Washington, one of the worst teams in the league in transition defense, giving up the 3-pointer at a pretty high clip too. I like Kuzma a good bit. And then Denny, my guy, Denny Avdia, Dean. Yeah, I'm going to play some Denny. Jordan Poole in my 150 stuff. I'll throw Poole in there. But primarily I'm prioritizing Kuzma and Denny. I guess you could throw Tyus in too. I don't want to get too many of these Washington guys outside of Kuzma and Avdia, though.
They're asking about Gafford in the chat. Shout out to Washington for playing Gafford in the first half, despite having 3 fouls. He ended up getting his 4th foul, and they end up fouling out. But, it's okay. It's okay. It's fine. It's okay if the guy fouls out. Like, at least he fouled out on his own merit, and he wasn't just, stuck to the bench because he had 3 fouls and the coach did not let him play. And that allowed for Marvin Bagley to absolutely annihilate. He ate Cat's lunch. He was awesome against Cat. Was it yesterday? No, 2 days ago, I believe. Yeah, Cat defensively maybe a little bit shaky. Bagley, not known for his defensive game, but he does have some offensive skills. I would also just, if you're making rules, by the way, TJ, and I'm curious your thoughts as far as Washington, I would cap one of, if you're doing that, Gafford and Bagley. I would certainly cap those at 1. They're not, they don't correlate positively. Your thoughts here as far as the Washington runbacks?
Yeah, that same rule, Gafford and Bagley, max 1. And then I did some other ones where basically if I play Koulibaly or Kispert, I'm not going to play any of the starters. Bagley, I didn't make that rule with just because I can see a scenario where he's playing better or Gafford gets in a foul trouble and he does smash alongside the starters. But Koulibaly and Kispert, I kind of only want to play them in they just go the bench route, whether this is a blowout, they're playing better, whatever it is. Avdia and Kuzma would definitely be my 2 favorite runbacks. I like the Gafford call at very low ownership. Him and Bagley are both in my pool, and I am including a little bit of Koulibaly and Kispert too.
So if you're playing 3 or 4 players on Utah, I know you had some specific stuff, TJ, but you don't have to run it back with Washington, right? You're not forcing it. You only have a couple iterations of if these guys are in, then we're going to run back a Washington player, or are you forcing at least one of 4 Jazz players? What's your rules as far as run back stuff?
I'm not forcing it, but I do assume I'm going to get a decent amount of these run backs because this is the only game where I have a maximum of more than 2 on any of the teams. I have 4 for Utah, 3 for Washington. Philly, Indiana, Chicago, Golden State, Sacramento are all 2. And then every other team is 1. So I'm probably going to naturally get some run backs.
I like how producer Steve is just randomly dropping polls in the chat. I think it's producer Steve. Maybe it's Devin. I'm guessing it's producer Steve. I saw Devin lurking as well. Would you rather attend the Super Bowl or 3 games of the World Series. I love how 3 games is like not all 7 games, 3 games of the World Series. Assuming it's neutral, like, it's not your favorite team, and you get to sit wherever you want. How about that? We want to put those rules in there too, Bobby. You attended the Super Bowl or 3 games of the World Series?
I'm going the Super Bowl. I think the Super Bowl is a good time. I've been twice. I don't know. I've been the World Series also. But I think I would go Super Bowl.
I've not been to a Super Bowl. I could have been in the audience for, remember when Prince performed at the halftime? I think it was the Peyton Manning Chicago Bears Super Bowl. Really uneventful Super Bowl. And somebody approached me and my friends like, hey, you want to join the halftime? But like, you can't watch the game. And like, we had a party to go to. It was a whole thing. So we ended up passing. But that's like one of the all-time best halftime performances, Prince. And like right when the halftime started, the rain kicked in, purple rain kicked in, just right on cue. It was organic rain. It wasn't like, manufactured. But yeah, I've been to a World Series too. How about that, Bobby? I saw a walk-off home run in the World Series. Shout out Alex Gonzalez.
I think I've been to a couple World Series games, to be perfectly honest. That's
like
humble brag, but I am from Boston, right? Like we've done a bunch of these in the last 20 years.
Did you also win $1 million in DFS when I haven't? Are you going to want to be in that realm as well? I think you might have. Did you see the Patriots? Was it a random team or you see the Patriots?
I was on the goal line for the Malcolm Butler interception.
Oh, wow.
Like that goal line.
What a wild turn of events.
Yeah.
TJ, you got an answer for this as far as the poll in chat?
Easily Super Bowl.
Why so easy?
I don't want to have to be somewhere for 3 different games, probably travel back and forth. That's a long trip. Just give me the Super Bowl. That's a 3-hour game. Story of a lifetime. I don't feel like I even need to go see a World Series game.
Game 1, Game 2, Game 7, all in the same place.
Yeah, that means I probably have to stay in that city for that long, or I have to travel back and forth extra. I'm up.
The Saskatoon Roughriders are going to be an expansion team in MLB, and it's all right. Fair enough.
I'll say this. For the majority of the World Series games, like I was in Fenway, so I would have rather been on my couch, to be perfectly honest.
Chris in chat, Kirkwood makes a great point, by the way. He says the poll should say big game. That is correct. It should be the big game. It's not. It's the big game, instead of the World Series. But yeah, that is a point worth taking. That's the other thing with football. It's like 99% of football games, I don't care how fun that game is. Like, the Bills, Chiefs, awesome atmosphere, sure, but I want my couch. That's a lot more comfortable. I can get up and down, and it's beverages are much easier to get a hold of. Anyways, all right, let's any final thoughts here, TJ, as far as Utah and Washington? We spent a lot of time on it, but I think it really mattered. Really, really important to the slate. Anything else you want to say? Certainly things can change, but that's where we're at right now. Trying to find some news on the Twitter. It's all news coming for tomorrow. Kevin Love officially out for Miami. That's not a big deal. He's out with his illness. Not going to give it a go tonight. You got anything else, TJ, as far as Washington, Utah?
No, it's basically it. Most important game on the slate. Like, if you say you just want to do something crazy and get super different today and just not play this game, if it all of a sudden busts, you're going to be very, very different than the field. But I'm not doing that. I'm playing a ton of it. I'm going to have probably 5 or 6 Jazz in cash, and I'll have 2 to 4 of them in every tournament lineup.
Anything else, Bobby?
Just remember they're fully healthy, right? And all these guys are hitting optimal. So to come in under the 5 or 6 makes a lot of sense. I like where TJ has it at 4. I feel like that's where the majority of people will set it.
They're fully healthy is a great point. And also, it's the Jazz. It's the Jazz. Yeah. I think it's another good point. This is not a team you can trust. They are fickle. Don Yeezy in chat, by the way, saying option number C, NBA courtside front row, like NBA finals. I would take that over both those options. I've never sat full-fledged courtside, but that seems like I've been like a couple rows back to hear some chatter. But courtside for an NBA final, I think would be the nuts if you're gonna, if you're shopping around for optimal sporting experience. Philadelphia, the Sixers versus the Pacers, 240.5 is the total. Pacers currently 6-point dogs here. Who's in? Who's out? Well, the Pacers do have Halliburton out. He's still on that injury management. They just brought him back too soon. Jalen Smith officially questionable. He was probable, or there was no tag on him going in the last game. I'm not sure if it was a warm situation, but his back flared up at some point where he never played, and he was ruled out like in the second quarter. Philadelphia, Tobias Harris, he's not feeling particularly well, so he's questionable, as is Patrick Beverley, but he's expected to play. Marcus Morris has that foot, so he's unlikely to play. So it's it's possible they lose both Harris, and who would be the likely backup for Harris, the one that would jump in for him, Marcus Morris. He's also probably not going to play, so that can open some stuff up. Mo Bamba also out. Melton's going to be out for a while, as is Covington. He'll be out even longer. So, yeah, Bobby, how much are we forcing in Joel Embiid? He's incredible. Of course, there's other players like Joker on the slate who could beat him, but he is in incredible form, and this matchup is spectacular. It's hard not to play Embiid, but, if you're doing tournament stuff and you're trying to be a little bit different, do you dare get lower than the field on Embiid? What's your thoughts here, Bobby? Embiid and the Sixers.
I'm probably going to be trying to get over on Embiid. Like 2 games versus Indiana, 68 DK points in both games. Very, very strong play. Obviously, pace up, great matchup versus Indiana. What are they, second in pace? And it's just worst room D in the league. And Embiid's getting it as hot as he is. Like, it's tough not to get there. I have him 36% to get 70 currently. That's well above pretty much everyone else. So Embiid seems like a phenomenal play. I think Maxey is also a phenomenal play. We talked about the minutes, 38 minutes. Pacers, it's great for transition. It's great for pretty much pace. It's great for everything. Dead last in isolation defense are the Pacers. So for me, I'm all over Maxey and Embiid, and I like Oubre a ton, like TJ. If Tobias sits, I think Oubre is also a fantastic play.
TJ, what do you got?
Yeah, basically the exact same thing. I don't think I'm going to get to any of the 76ers outside of Embiid, Maxey, Oubre. Everybody else is just kind of priced up to a point I don't think I need it. Like Batum is almost 5K. Beverly is almost 5K. Like Danuel House and KJ Martin, yes, they are super cheap, but unless KJ Martin starts, I don't think I have a lot of interest there. So I'll probably just be playing those main 3 guys. And then on the Indiana side of things, they are pretty darn cheap. So even though Philly's a great defense, I still am interested in getting there. Siakam at 7-1, I want to get to him. Buddy Hield at 5,600 coming in at like 3% ownership. Love that. Same with TJ McConnell off the bench. I don't love Nembhard as much, but I think I'm going to include him in the start. I'm going to include him in my pool. But TJ McConnell at 2%, love that. And then I even think Nesmith and Jalen, probably not Jalen Smith, but Nesmith can stay in the pool.
Pascal's usage so far, 24%, 24%, 21%. I kind of rounded down there so far with Indiana. You got to think, I would figure it'd be a little bit higher in the absence of Halliburton. Also the minutes, 32, 30, 34. It's about what you'd expect, somewhere around there. Ownership-wise, when it comes to this game, we're giving Embiid 22% on DK. Miles Turner, I think there's a chance he plays more than 29. We got him for 29 minutes. I could see them, just because of the size of Embiid. I'm not sure if he's going to match Embiid's 35, but I think there's a chance. Obviously, he's got to dodge foul trouble, which certainly happens when you have to, cover Joel Embiid. But I think he's down to 6'3". So I think Turner is pretty interesting. If you want to just play both centers in this game, kind of as a run back. Pascal, I think at 7-1 is interesting enough. We're starting to see a little bit of a softening of prices on DK, not necessarily in the 3 and 4K area, but the mid-tier stuff to me feels like it's dropping a little bit. Bobby, what do you got as far as the Pacers?
Yeah, Siakam, Turner, I think they're probably the 2 strongest plays for me. From the Pacers side, then the best value play would be TJ McConnell at 5'4". In terms of Nembhard, I think I'd prefer Mathurin to Nembhard. Maybe that's a bad take, but for me, like of those guards, I think I'd rather go Benedict Mathurin over. I just haven't been able to get Mathurin right.
I'd take McConnell of all of them. I think he's got the highest ceiling.
Yeah, McConnell's the best by far from a value perspective, and maybe the best pacer in general. But from the upside perspective, I obviously like Turner and Siakam.
All right, man. 7:00 is it's really, really hard to avoid. It's a 7-game slate, but I think it's really hard, especially Utah, obviously. TJ, I'm gonna have a hard time like not playing players in these games. You could very easily just play all your players in 7:00, and then that's it. Your slate's done, and hopefully nothing goofy happens where like incredible value opens. But that's part of the game theory of this slate. But you could make lineups, like actual good lineups, with just these 2 games, right?
Yeah, very easily. And I think that could end up being the optimal sort of cash build once this is all said and done, especially if we get Tobias Harris out. I'm loaded up on this game just like I am the first one. I actually did adjust the rule I put earlier to allow myself to get up to 3 Philadelphia players. Like, I don't think it's crazy to play Maxey, Oubre, and Embiid together if we get Harris out, but if I am doing that, I definitely would want to make sure I'm running it back with somebody on Indiana.
And give me like your favorite 3 Pacers in order, considering all the elements, considering ownership and all that kind of stuff.
TJ McConnell 1, Pascal Siakam 2, Buddy Hield 3.
Do you not like Turner? I mean, we're giving him 29 minutes and the price is down, and you don't see a path for him potentially playing 34 here. Or if I was the top 4, I just think
Embiid's gonna eat him.
Like
I don't really ever play any centers against Embiid.
Wembanyama was good against them. Remember? I believe he was, right? I feel like he was.
Yeah, but Embiid put up 72.
Oh yeah. Well, but you're not docked for how many points you give up.
Yeah, I know. But just like Turner is the type of guy that, like, when he's out there, he's going to be defending Embiid as hard as he can, Like, I could see foul trouble definitely being an issue here.
Do want to mention to the people, we talked about this yesterday. I don't want to say I lied. I did say there's a chance it might still be available. It is still available, not officially out of beta. SimLabs. SimLabs, you're not aware, expert DFS lineup generation tool from RotoGrinders and Fantasy Labs, and now you can use it for both NFL and NBA. With just a few clicks, you have hundreds of well-built correlated lineups for whatever contest you're playing in. You just tell it, hey, look, I'm playing in a small field, a contest. I want some variance, but I don't want too much variance. You can just use the slider and tell it how much variance you want. If you're running out of time before lock, just quickly build a set of lineups to fill out your entries. Want to see who might be falling under the radar? Use the tool to examine players the field might be sleeping on. All combo premium subscribers have access to both NFL and NBA sims, while sport-specific premium subs will have access to the corresponding sport in SimLabs. I believe there's a link in the description as well. This will probably be gone tomorrow. Just one last thing they're tinkering with. This is not my realm. As you can imagine, I'm not the tech-savvy guy, but it's not officially out of beta. What it is, it'll be in the paywall, but we want you guys to use it for free. In the meantime, do check out SimLabs. I know Brandon in chat is trying to trip me up as far as it being Sims Labs. Wait, I think I said it right. So why am I reading this now? Now I'm just tripping myself up. It is SimLabs. There are 5 games left to go. Crunch time coming in about 40 minutes or so. Roth, Squirrel, and Taylor Smith. Yeah, they split the Taylors up this time. Taylor, usually you and Taylor do crunch time together, it seems like. Let's talk about the T-Wolves. The T-Wolves are playing – no. Why am I jumping ahead of that game? Let's talk about Denver. Denver and New York, 222.5 is the total. New York is a 2-point dog here at home versus the Nuggets. We have a Hartenstein questionable tag. My lean is he doesn't play, but we'll see. Stay tuned. He's officially questionable for New York. Otherwise, their injury report is clean, pretty clean there for Denver as well. It's just Julian Strawther. Bobby, like, this is like the pivot, right? If you want to get away from Embiid, just play Joker. You can, certainly you can tell yourself a story that Joker outscores Embiid. That's not crazy, but he's not really going to be owned. Denver versus New York. What do you got?
Yeah, for me, not a ton here. Like, Jokic would be the pivot, but I'm pretty much kind of pushing the chips in on Embiid. I don't love this game just from it's a great NBA game. Well, if you think the Knicks are okay, then I guess it's a great if they could stay with them. But for me, there isn't much that I'm getting from this game at all. Kind of a slower pace. Some interest in Achua if Hartenstein were to miss on the Knicks side. I guess Reggie Jackson is a value piece for Denver, but not too much. for me. Aaron Gordon's his price is a little down. I'd probably prefer him to MPJ, but yeah, outside of Yoke, not much for me from this game.
It was a scary fade if you faded Sims last time because he was smashing in the first half. He was awesome. He's pretty bouncy. He had a bunch of blocks. He's not a shooter, of course, but these guys can just dunk the ball, get some boards, and block the ball. He played a bunch of minutes in the first half, but he did go away after his third quarter rotation. He went bye-bye for Precious Achiuwa, and Achiuwa did not leave. I believe 26 minutes and 25 seconds and 21 minutes and 27 seconds. So they essentially chopped the center minutes there outside of like 10 seconds or so. Achiuwa did close. I was nervous not having Jericho Sims. It's a weird, uncomfortable thing. We're all like, yeah, he's going to go away. And he didn't, but he did eventually. And you loved having him from the start, and then he basically stopped as far as getting fantasy points. TJ, what do we got? Denver, New York, your take.
Nothing. I got nothing. X'd out the whole game, not playing anybody.
I want to see what our ownership stuff is on it. I'm just giving it a refresh. It's pretty low, right? It's 15% for Josh Hart, 10% for Gordon. Arjax at 8%. That's a salary thing, obviously. Man, where is Joker? Why can't I? Murray at 2%. I think that's kind of interesting. Joker at 3%. Wait, you're saying 5? Are you on FanDuel? You got to give it a refresh, I think.
No, I'm on.
Maybe I got to.
I'm looking at our screen on DraftKings right in front of us that the whole chat's looking at.
Let's see. Did we get a new batch of ownership? Why are we looking at something different? Anyways, yeah, I got DraftKings 3.38%. I don't know. Is he 5% on FanDuel? I don't think so.
No, it
doesn't matter.
We just hit the refresh. Who cares if it's 4.5 or 3.5?
Yeah. If you were to play one player, TJ, I know you're not playing the game. I understand you're taking a stand elsewhere. But who's the one player you'd play if you're playing this game?
Aaron Gordon, 5,600. I'm considering even adding him into the pool right now.
All right. Well, yeah, that was a catch-me-up game because we're not terribly interested in the game in the Garden. Minnesota and Brooklyn. By the way, note here on Brooklyn is that Ben Simmons could be back on Monday. We've heard this before, but he could be back Monday. We'll see. Stay tuned. It's DFS, Daily Fantasy Sports. We care about today and today only, so doesn't affect us, but noted. Tobias Harris, by the way, remains questionable. Thanks for nothing, Philadelphia. Completely worthless. They will never give you an update, Philadelphia. They're just never going to tell you. Anyways, Minnesota, Brooklyn, 217 is the total. Minnesota is a 4-point favorite here. I believe this is the back half of a back-to-back for Minnesota. Other teams in the back-to-back, for what it's worth, Minnesota, Washington, Miami Heat, and the Warriors. The Pacers, they are on a front end of a back-to-back, the only team on the front end. We have injury-wise when it comes to Minnesota and Brooklyn. Cam Johnson's good to go with his shoulder. We mentioned Ben Simmons, Daron Sharp. He's not walking through that door anytime soon. And Mike Connolly, he has that illness. He's questionable. TJ, I'll throw it to you. Minnesota, Brooklyn. Could we get a little bit more excited about this one than the other game in New York or what?
Not really. I am not playing any Minnesota players. I think all of Edwards, Gobert, and Towns are all viable. If Conley's out, then I think Nickeil Alexander-Walker and heck, maybe even Jordan McLaughlin are a little bit viable. But I just don't really feel like I need to go there. I currently have no Minnesota players in my pool. On the Brooklyn side of things, I have a rule set to maximum 1 Brooklyn player. I think Bridges is fine. I think Claxton is fine. I think Cam Thomas is fine. And I think Cam Johnson is fine. But max 1, and I don't feel the need to get to any of them.
Even if Conley is out, Na would not be a positive DK value or a positive FanDuel value. The price has crept up a little bit too much. He would still get 31 minutes as far as a projection, but minutes equal money, but not all minutes are created equal. Na's minutes are created pretty poorly, especially when you're playing alongside Edwards and Cat. Just have a projection around 21, 22 DK FanDuel. Cat, Edwards, Gobert all look pretty fine here versus Brooklyn, but nothing you have to play. Nothing really popping. Conley is the most popular play if he does play. According to our ownership stuff, around 16%. He's 5'4". It's a pretty fair price on DK. Claxton most popular on Brooklyn, and I agree with that. I like the Bridges call too. I'm good with both those guys, actually. I don't really want to pick on Minnesota defense, but the prices are pretty good, and their minutes are really secure. Anybody else on Brooklyn, their minutes are not secure, especially Spencer Dinwiddie. Those are plummeting. Now, could they be elevated? I don't know, but it's a mess. Similar to Indiana, similar to Utah, it's just sort of dicey to figure out the rest of the Brooklyn stuff. What do you got here, Bobby? I think we can see we're giving 33 minutes to Claxton, so that's pretty full. And Bridges 37. They're going to need both those guys if they want to take down Minnesota.
Yeah, for the Nets, Claxton and Bridges would be my two favorite. Like you said, I'm not getting to Dinwiddie, especially with the minutes fluctuating. If I'm getting to the Brooklyn side. On the Minnesota side, Neil Alexander-Walker, if Conley were to sit, and like Ant would probably be my favorite. Brooklyn's defense, bottom 8 and 3-point defense. So I think it's a good spot for Ant. I guess you can make a case for Towns too, because Towns, was he perfect from 3 the other night when he went for that 70-62 that no one
he was
cares
9
about?
for 9 to start, and then he started fading away. He also started forcing some shots too. And I don't know if you saw like the story that like in the locker room at halftime, word got around Minnesota that Embiid was scoring like 70 points, and the team wanted to get him to beat Embiid, and they were forcing shots to him, and they blew a 20-point lead to the Charlotte Hornets. So Coach Finch was pissed. He was furious, if you heard his press conference. But yeah, and Anthony Edwards did not score his first point till like midway through the third quarter. He had a bunch of assists, but no points. So it was very strange. But yeah, Cat was awesome. But he was 9 for 9 from the start from 3.
Yeah, I would prefer Edwards, but probably max 1 for that reason of all these like Gobert, Edwards, and Towns in terms of the Minnesota studs. Tim just said Hartenstein's out. If we want to go back and cover that.
Yeah, I think we kind of expected that. Our projections didn't have it because they usually lean in, unless it's very, very clear. They're not going to go, but I sort of thought Hartenstein wasn't going to play. We'll see what changes here. I'll see if anything happens to change projection-wise. We probably had an if-then set up for that. I'm guessing we did.
It's pressure for Sims.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Maybe they bump out. Let's see. Precious would have a 19-point projection. Sims got a 17-point projection. Chopping the 48 minutes. 22 to Precious, 26 to Sims. But there is some volatility to that. Obviously, you just got to put a number on it. Randall gets a little bit better too. I think he looks like a pretty good DK value. But feel free to continue as far as Minnesota and Brooklyn, unless you got nothing else.
No, that's pretty much it. This is another game like the Knicks game. Not really too interested in it.
TJ, we got anything else as far as this game?
No, not much at all. And with just one thing I'll add is with Isaiah Hartenstein getting ruled out, I have added Precious Achiuwa to the pool, and I'm not playing any Jericho Sims.
Yeah. I think I would play Precious before Sims as well. Okay. I'm curious whether the official projections are going to land. We'll give it a peek in a bit once that gets tinkered and refreshed with. Boston at my Miami Heat with an embarrassing loss last night to whatever was left of the Grizzlies. Just pathetic. One of the worst games of the season for Miami. I even watched this one. It was nonsense. They were so bad. But now they can bounce back and take on Boston. This is the way the Heat team is. That they'll probably bounce back and play Boston pretty tight. Injury-wise, the Celtics, I believe they're clean, right? Yeah, nobody on the injury report for Boston. Miami, still Jaime Jaquez. He's got that groin, so he's not going to play. We saw Kevin Smith. He's definitely not playing. He's working on some comics somewhere. Kevin Love, he's not playing basketball tonight. Yeah, TJ, it's a 7-game slate. It's very clear which games are in and what games are out. But, if everybody sees something, maybe you're supposed to be somewhat different in tournaments. I don't think Boston and Miami is going to get a ton of eyeballs. You tell me otherwise.
X, not playing a single player from the game.
Yeah. Okay. So you're just going all in. Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I'm just here to make your job tougher today. And hey, TJ, talk about this game. No.
We got to fill some time. I got Mr. Predicto, and I have his friend. I got the Magic 8-Ball now if we need it. If the chat wants to ask any yes or no questions, by all means, happy to ask them. If TJ is not willing, he's just saying, nope, I'm not answering any questions. That's that. Bobby, how about you? Your Boston Celtics, when they're on the road, because you don't like the traffic they create around your place when they're at home.
Yeah.
They're in my territory. I'm not necessarily at South Beach, so I'm close enough. Your Celtics versus Miami. Are you a little bit more excited about this game than TJ is?
No Celtics for me. I guess you can make a case just to make a case for someone. Drew Holiday at 6-1. You can always play Tatum, Brown, Porzingis, but I don't think this is the slate for it. On the Miami side, I do think Miami bounces back after last night's debacle. So I like Harrow's price at 6-8, and then Bam at 8-5. I think those would be the two that I have the most interest in for value on the Miami side. There's no one I really want to get to. Maybe Haywood Highsmith, but it would just be, for me, Hero and Bam that I'm actually going to have exposure to from this game.
We saw Haywood Highsmith draw the start last night. Hero, Richardson, Butler, Highsmith, Bam Adebayo, the projected starting lineup. I think there's a chance we get Rozier to jump in the starting lineup tonight. He didn't start yesterday. It's a revenge game for Terry Rozier as well. And I do expect Miami to at least show up here. What an embarrassment. How do you lose whatever was left of Memphis? And shout out to Memphis for playing hard. Good for them. And shout out Portland, too. On a back half of a back-to-back, they beat Houston, and they came back and put that game in overtime on a miracle shot. Portland's been playing hard, despite being fully terrible. Okay, how many games do we have left? We have 2 games. We have the nightcap. That's it. That's the first 5 games. You can chill. You can take a nap. 7:30. Everything is locked down from 7:30 until 10 o'clock. In 2.5 hours, 2 more games make an appearance. At least one game does. At 10 o'clock on the East Coast. That's Sacramento, Golden State. Golden State in the back half of a back-to-back. 243.5 is the total. It's high and tight, right? Golden State just a 2-point dog here versus the Kings. Nothing new when it comes to injuries. Chris Paul is out. Peyton's out. Moody's out. Sacramento, they are perfectly clean. TJ, is this a game where you might actually play a player? Is there a player in your player pool with the Kings and the Warriors?
We're back. I will play some players from the Kings and Warriors game. We got a nice high total in this one, over 240 points. On the Kings side of things, I'm playing some Sabonis. I'm playing some De'Aaron Fox. De'Aaron Fox currently projecting for 0.29% ownership. What a phenomenal tournament play today. Love getting some Fox. Sabonis is fine too, but at 22%, I'd rather play Fox at virtually no ownership. And then kind of the same thing with Malik Monk and Keegan Murray. Malik Monk is rating out as one of the better quote-unquote value plays on the slate, even though he's not that cheap. He's getting a ton of ownership, projecting for almost 30%. I think he's totally fine for single entry, totally fine for a cash game. But in a large field tournament, I would just rather play Keegan Murray instead of Malik Monk. And then on the Golden State side of things, a little bit less interesting there for me. I'm going to be interested to see if maybe we get some kind of late Draymond Green sitting out because it's a back-to-back. And if Draymond Green sits out, then maybe the Jonathan Kumingas are more interesting, and we'll maybe get some Dario Saric in play. But if Draymond is in, it's probably just Curry, a little bit of Kuminga, and then Draymond for me in tournaments. And then what I'll do, since he is only $100 cheaper and at the same position, if Draymond's out, I'll just sub all that Draymond to Dario Saric.
I thought about that too, but they didn't play for 9 days. Are they really going to rest guys in the back half of a back-to-back? I know Draymond kind of a specific, he's kind of working his way back, and it took him a while to get in his shape and all that kind of stuff. But is that sort of the thought process? Is maybe there's something with that, but they haven't played in 9 days, so they should be all good to go. But yeah, you never know. I expect him to play, but I like the thought process.
Yeah, I'm expecting him to play too. I like that there's a pivot for just in case that he happens to be out. You never know. He's 33 years old and it's a back-to-back, but I'm with you. I'm not necessarily I'm not expecting him to sit. I have Draymond in my pool right now.
The Kuminga thing, I like Kuminga, but it feels a little bit chasey. If you're looking at last night, I think he was 11 of 11 from the field. Do not expect that again, but I do like Kuminga as a general thought. I think he's 6'1" on FanDuel, which I thought was a little bit too pricey, but I think everybody on FanDuel is a little bit too pricey. Kuminga on DK is coming in at 5'8", Want to get your thoughts here, Bobby, when it comes to the Kings and the Warriors.
Yeah, I think TJ made a great point on Fox. Like, I would definitely cut that Sabonis ownership in half with Fox, especially if Fox is coming in that low owned. Although I do like Sabonis. I think he's a good play as well. Those would be the two main ones for me. TJ hit on Keegan Malik. I think you can throw Kevin Huerter in there. That's pretty much the exposure that I have from I have like the same exposure as TJ, so I'm not going to run back through all that. And no one really from the Golden State side currently. So, yeah, it's pretty much Sacramento for me or bust in this game.
By the way, have you got a refresh as far as our projections? And I thought like maybe some of the news with New York might shake some things up to some degree, but nope, not the case. Still getting an insane amount of Jazz. Certainly some of the, I guess the New York guys might be eking their way in there, but in the optimal stuff that I'm running, at least the Jazz are still reigning supreme. I'm running it again, but my first lineup was probably TJ's lineup, but seven Jazz and Embiid. And there you go. Again, it's a 281 projection, and it's projected but 1.5 points more than the next one, which is only 5 Jazz players, which is kind of interesting. Conley, who may or may not play, and a couple players from the Kings, Sabonis and Monk, not surprisingly, the two most popular players. Ownership-wise, as far as our projection right now, they're both in the 20s. Chris wants me to apologize for Harry Barnes. What did I do to Harry Barnes? He had that one game where he scored a bunch of points. Okay, am I supposed to apologize for that? Did I besmirch Harry Barnes? Like you're welcome to roster him tonight, Chris.
I think you besmirched him on the previous show.
What did I say?
You might have reverse mushed him if he just had a game recently because he's been awful.
Oh, I said he was done. Okay, I mean he's basically done, but he's on the 17th hole, more or less, 16th hole. If you want to, again, by all means, if you want to play Harry Barnes, you're welcome to do so. His 14% usage and his 0.64 fantasy points per minute, you can have it. It's all yours. I don't think anybody's playing him either, for what it's worth. 3% is our current projection. As producer Steve is pointing out in chat, for some reason we have more people voting on the poll than hitting the like button. Voting on the poll shows us that's proof of life, and you have the ability to click things. Why not click the like button while you're clicking on the poll? Like and subscribe while you're at it, while you're on like a clicking on spree. By all means, hit that like button, subscribe, turn on the notifications so you know we go live. The poll question, if you're not aware, would you rather attend the big game or 3 games of the World Series? And currently the big game is up 73% to the World Series 27%. We did add in like NBA would change things, maybe MMA if you're into that kind of thing. That possibly can change things too. But there you go. All right. Anything else we should mention before we talk about the last game, which is Chicago and the Lakers? We're good to go, guys?
Yeah, we're
good to go. Okay.
Let's see. Keeping an eye on Twitter. Any news dropping for us? I don't believe so. Mike Conley's still a game time decision. That is not useful. They're still giving him an illness. Okay. Bulls, Lakers, historic franchises at one point. Now it's the Lakers not without. Currently, we have a questionable Anthony Davis. We have a questionable LeBron James. It's the last game of the slate. We all kind of think they're both going to play, but you never really know. 227.5 is the total. Lakers are 5-point favorites here. As far as the Bulls, Patrick Williams expected to give it a go with his ankle. Levine obviously still out with his ankle. And Torrey Craig, speaking of minutes, equal money, and his minutes are created very poorly. He's out with his foot. All right, TJ, we're going to play some Bulls here, I think. Maybe some Lakers too. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, I think we'll play some Bulls. But I'm also just thinking about how if I had some good tickets to the Super Bowl and I really wanted to do the World Series instead, I could, in the big game, and I wanted to go to the World Series instead, I could probably sell those big game tickets and make enough to go to more than 3 games of the World Series.
What about sitting, as they're pointing out in chat, on the ice? You ever sit like on the glass? I've never sat on the glass. That seems crazy.
You don't want to. You can't see anything near as well as if you were up.
The best seat in hockey is like first row balcony.
Yeah.
That's my favorite. That easily my favorite.
It's not
You
like
can't
10
see
rows up.
anything. You can't see.
think
10 rows up is totally fine too. Just you can't see anything when you're right up against the glass. Like unless you're gonna be like standing up, like cheering, banging on the glass the whole game. It's not that great of a spot.
But you get like 3 optimal moments, though. It's like 3 optimal moments in the game where like they're banging the boards right in front of you and crashing. Like it's like coming right.
Who cares though?
That peaks and valleys. I get the thought that like you really can't see what's going on the other side of the ice, but that moment is like, that might
the
be worth
glass is there anyways, so you don't really even feel like you're close.
All right, you were gonna say, Bobby?
Yeah, center ice balcony, I would say, is from like a visual perspective, I think is one of the best places to sit for any sporting event. But in general, for hockey games, it's like definitely my favorite seat.
We could also say, like, I think we can agree. You guys tell me otherwise. The whatever the enjoyment rate is of watching something on TV versus whatever it is as being in person, hockey takes the biggest leap. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, for sure.
Hockey in person takes the biggest leap versus any other sport in person.
I think that's completely fair to say.
TJ?
Yeah, I wouldn't disagree with that. I just don't like watching hockey anyways.
That's fine. But you like playing DFS hockey and you do well in it. That's all that matters.
DFS hockey, yeah. That's my favorite DFS sport right now, but I'm not gonna watch the games.
All right. DeRozan expected to get a fair bit of ownership tonight. Pretty reasonable price at 7.4 on DK, 19% ownership currently projected. Vuk getting 17%. Williams kind of as one of the cheapies that aren't comfortable but are quote unquote fine at 17%. Kobe White, who certainly had some excellent games this year, getting a 13-point projection. First Laker coming in is D'Angelo Russell. Now, of course, if we get news that one of the bigs is out, LeBron or Davis, that would change, but that's not the news right now. Bobby, Lakers, Bulls, what do you got?
Yeah, so I think Russell is a very good play if one of AD or LeBron sit. Like I said, I thought at the top of the show, I think if someone did, they both made shoot around, but I do think if one were to sit, it would be AD. And I like either one, I think is fine. I think I would prefer AD if he played. In terms of the Bulls, I think they're all good plays. My favorite is going to be Kobe White. I just think in terms of basically the Lakers defense, like his 3-point ability and his game in isolation kind of really is something that benefits this matchup. So I'm going to prefer to go to Kobe White. DeMar DeRozan's going to pop in everything. I never play DeMar DeRozan chalk. I would prefer Vucevic. I think I'm going to make a rule for max 3 of those guys in general. I mean, max 1 of those guys. Sorry. Max 1 of DeMar DeRozan, Kobe White, and Vooch. That's pretty much all the Lakers. You could play Pat Williams or Caruso for value. I don't think I'm doing it. Maybe Caruso revenge. I don't know. I feel like we have enough value on the slate. He's 5-1. But yeah,
he's been playing more minutes of late. Sorry,
yeah,
I'm going to cut you off.
He's been playing more minutes. My favorite play is probably Kobe White from the Bulls side, and then AD from the Lakers.
If producer Steve can give us the slate's been flipped on its head GIF, as you know, talked about as a potential option. Tobias Harris is officially out, and Marcus Morris also out, who would be likely the guy that would jump in and start, but now he can't play. So they're going to be a little thin as far as their bigs, as far as their 4s, 3s, however you want to, quantify those. Oubre probably is going to pop a fair bit. You're probably not going to have to play 7 players in the Jazz. Not that you're playing 7 before, but it's going to shuffle up. And again, you can really make some good lineups and go to bed or go watch a movie or do something else. Fire up the Netflix at 7:00 and call it a day. And just
Traders tonight, Dean. Traders. Have you turned on Traders yet?
Traders, the show on Peacock. I've heard it's good. Yeah. Wait, it doesn't come out. It's like once a week, that kind of thing.
Yeah, I think it's Thursday. Tonight's another release.
I hear it's similar to The Mole, and I'm a fan of The Mole, so I'll probably like it. I've yet to watch Traders, though. Hoosiers Hang Banners is asking about Batum. Batum probably draws a start, and Pat Bev can be kind of sort of someone interesting. If you want to tell yourself a story, KJ Martin might be an interesting dart, but I'm really curious how they shuffle stuff up, and I think this is going to subdue the Jazz to some degree. to some degree, the Jazz will be subdued. They're still going to pop. But, TJ, your first thought. I know we're talking about the Bulls and the Lakers. We're kind of bouncing back and forth, but I think this is a little bit more pertinent. Now that we officially know that Harris and Morris are out, what are we doing?
I'm going to play 100% Embiid in my 150 set. Like, I think I'm just going to hit the lock button on him today. He's just too stupidly cheap on DraftKings. Like, somebody did ask, is Embiid a must play in FanDuel Cash earlier? And I still don't think he's a must play over there because he's 12-6. Like, it's just so hard to get there considering the lack of value we have. So I do still think he's a great tournament option, but not a must play over there. On DraftKings, I think I'm going to hit the luck button.
So on FanDuel, my optimals on FanDuel, center-wise, Sabonis 30%, Bam 27%, Vuk 17%, Claxton 15%, Pascal 8%. Eventually, you get to Embiid at 6%. And it's like, well, they don't like Embiid. They love Embiid. The projection is 66 FanDuel points as a median projection. But he's 12-6, and it is tough filling out some lineups there on FanDuel. Now, that might change as far as, the new shuffle here with I don't know how cheap the pieces are. Oubre is almost definitely going to be now a FanDuel cash game play. But I would not say that you have to play Embiid. If you can make it work and you love everything else, by all means, Embiid is spectacular. But I don't know if that's how the build is going to work over there.
We're projecting House to start at 3,400 right now. I still don't think he's all that interesting because it's the new House. But if KJ Martin starts ahead of him, I do think that would be somewhat interesting.
The thing is, they still have guys, right? Maxey, Oubre, House, Batum, Embiid starting. Pat Bev's going to get some run. Reed's going to back up Embiid. Furkan's available. KJ Martin, some wings. Jaden Springer. So there's guys. It's not like they're desperate for bodies. Yeah.
It's just they don't really have many fours outside of Martin. I guess still Martin, Batum, and House could, I guess, go there. So what I guess.
Yeah. How do you feel about Batum?
I'm not playing him. He's too expensive.
Huh. He's going to play, well, let's see, 30, 31, 32. Can he play up to that many? I think he can. Do we have a projection for this already? We might. Yeah, we already have it updated. Good job, projection team. So we're giving 38 to Maxey, 35 Embiid, 32 to Oubre. Oubre's going to pop. Batum 30. House 26. He's another guy who's terrible as far as points per minute. 12% usage, 0.56 fantasy points per minute. But, if he can hit a couple threes. You can tell yourself a story on it, and he's super, super cheap. I feel better about Pat Bev, who probably plays 25 minutes. Yeah, 26 minutes, a little bit more. What do you got, Bobby, as far as Philadelphia? What's your brain saying?
I think it would be Batum for me. Oubre is obviously the best, but in terms of the value guys, I think I would prefer Batum. Oubre at 5.2. They're in the same price range, but if you're talking about like the dumpster divers, that Batum, House, KJ Martin, easily Batum, Oubre by far the best value is what I was trying to say originally.
I see somebody in chat, Flying Armbar, asking about THT, Horton Tucker. Is he viable tonight on FanDuel? He might not even play. He's kind of out of the rotation. Now, you never know. He could jump back at some point. He did play last game in like kind of a mop-up effort when they just got shellacked by, I can't remember who it was. They weren't even playing a good team. It was ugly. But I would not play THT unless you're unless you see something as far as news-wise, unless he somehow starts out of nowhere, which I do not anticipate. That seems way, way too fragile. Mr. Richard saying, should we play 5 or 6 Jazz in cash? That's probably not the case. Let's give it a refresh. Did we clean up the Bulls and the Lakers, TJ? Did we give our final thoughts in that game? I don't want to neglect it, but this sort of
I actually haven't touched on it yet. So on the Lakers side of things, the only guys in my pool are Anthony Davis and LeBron James, not playing any other Laker. I am expecting both of them to play as they both went through shoot around this morning. That's usually the indicator that I care the most about. On the Bulls side of things, I do think they're quite a bit more interesting. Vucevic, White, DeRozan, definitely the 3 top options, but I don't think Caruso, Dosunmu, Patrick Williams are bad plays. Patrick Williams may be more of like a cash play than a tournament play. And then if you're running 150 lineups like I am, I don't think it's super crazy to, get your 3% Andre Drummond.
All right. First optimal I got on DK is just 4 Jasmine, 2 players on Philadelphia. I think it's pretty obvious who those 2 are. And we have money for Bam Adebayo. Okay. The next one's got 5. Surprisingly, no Embiid. The next one's got 4 Jazz and Embiid. So it's down to like we're still getting 4 or 5. Yeah, we're still getting 4 or 5. Little surprising. Yeah, what's weird is like the 4th one has got 3 players for the Jazz and 4 players for Philadelphia, which is also kind of surprising. Any sort of rules here, TJ? What's the most players for the Sixers you're going to play? I think 3.
3, yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at. Bobby, you have a thought on that?
Probably at most 3 as well.
There were some questions in chat, and I missed them. My apologies. Now I have to go back and get them. But I believe they were asking about, let's see, the Bulls. And I'm like, I'll just save those questions. Yeah, Butthole Jenkins wants to know, Bobby. And I think you actually answered this. You did a hand on the floor take. White or DeRozan on DK? You never played DeRozan. I think you talked up White. So I think White's your answer.
Yeah, White's my answer. I do not play Chalk DeRozan. I don't want that to come back and burn me tonight, but I do not play him.
TJ, who's going to bully who? In the chat, apparently some think it's Pat Bev's going to bully TJ McConnell, and you're saying TJ's going to bully him back? Yeah, McConnell, man, he's wild.
Pat Bev wishes he was as good as TJ McConnell. You know who looks like TJ McConnell?
Who looks like TJ McConnell? Taylor? Does he?
Yeah.
Can we do a side by side? Does he? What has TJ McConnell ever been seen with a mustache? If we're saying if we either shave Taylor's mustache or throw one on TJ McConnell, they're going to be like doppelgangers.
Maybe. I like TJ McConnell's a handsome man. And I don't think this is a slight by any means, to be clear, but I think there's a little bit of resemblance there. Their hair goes the same way.
I need to see some Photoshop. Somebody's got to Photoshop a mustache on TJ McConnell so I can do I just can't. It's hard for me to throw one on and just kind of do a little side by side, but I don't know if you have time to do such a thing. Or maybe Taylor can just shave his mustache. That would make things much easier. I don't know if he's willing to accommodate with us with that.
If we get 150 likes, Taylor will shave his mustache on stream.
I feel like Taylor can speak. So, can I get Taylor to read to me as I go to sleep at night? Is that available? Is that an option? He's got the most soothing voice in the business. I love hearing him talk. There you go. We did a little.
Am I wrong? Look at this. Come on. Oh, he had it up there. Now it's gone.
That's a new poll question for the chat. Well, producers, do you throw the poll question up? Does Taylor look like TJ? Okay, I can kind of sort of somewhat see it. You squint your eyes a little bit. What do you think, Bobby?
For me, I think they look alike. Yeah, I would go there. Might need to
Dynamite drop in. All right. Is Roth with us? Do we have everybody? Is Squirrel here as well?
I don't think I just popped Taylor in there for the resemblance. I don't think I was actually supposed to do that yet. So
okay.
I think technically they still have 4 more minutes. So
yeah, I never really know what the official time. Sometimes 6:15, sometimes 6:20. When everybody's just sort of in the bullpen and ready to jump in and pounce in. If there's any questions, by all means, ask in the chat. I know the people in the chat were asking questions for Mr. Perfecto and the Magic 8 Ball. That's all available too. What else are we talking about? Flying Armbar is Bagley viable. If you think Gafford's going to be handsy again, I suppose, kind of, sort of, maybe. But anybody have Bagley in their pool? He has a big ceiling when he gets the run, but the minutes are potentially fickle. He's been good so far for Washington.
He is.
I think TJ had him in there, didn't he?
Yeah, just like 5% Bagley.
Grimy, Quentin Grimes. Roman wants to know an interest in Quentin Grimes. I think that's a little too ambitious for me. Quentin Grimes for anybody?
No,
not for me.
Yeah, that's just a no. His minutes are not secure, and of course, when he's out there, not a lot of confidence that he's going to get much. Outside of standing in the corner, hitting the occasional 3 or something like that. Bobby, you have a player or a team or a game that you're just most afraid of having not enough of, that the field is going to burn you in, you're going to regret not having?
Probably Jokic.
Yeah, nobody's playing him, huh? That's pretty weird. I kind of get it, but like nobody's playing Joker on a 7-game slate against Jericho Sims. By the way, this isn't Hartenstein. This isn't Mitch Robb. Like New York is a really tough team on the inside, but Jericho Sims and Precious is going to subdue Joker. Like he's got a triple double just kind of hanging out. He can just drop one and casually. Nobody cares at this point because that's just what's expected. CW says, can we trust Jalen Smith tonight? Why do we even
I don't think you can ever trust Jalen Smith.
Is the upside worth it? The downside obviously is terrible. We've seen him late scratch multiple times now in the middle of a game. And what's the path for Jalen Smith? You need Turner to get into foul trouble, probably, or Pascal, one of those two. But you're making more lineups than me, TJ. I highly doubt I play any Jalen Smith.
I don't have it. I don't have any.
Derek wants to know House or Highsmith, Bobby. House or Highsmith? Scraping that barrel for sure.
Neither, but Highsmith. Oof.
Yeah, I don't like either one.
Should have gone House there.
It's a bad coin toss. Even Mr. Perfecto and the Magic 8 Ball are like we're gonna sit this one out. We have no idea. Let's see. We got which player would we recommend as an alternate to Utah cheap chalk? Who's your favorite pivot as a cheap chalk player outside of Utah, TJ? Give me your favorite cheapie.
Is Kelly Oubre cheap enough?
No, he's going to be super popular.
Is he cheap enough but just too popular? Because if I need to get a sneaky in the same price range, it's Cameron Johnson for me.
Okay. Yeah, it's a little different. Yeah, okay. You're talking about a pivot away from like John Collins or something like that. Obviously, but like price-wise.
Yeah, Cam Johnson's in the same range.
Yeah, that works. Pat Bev on FanDuel. Do we like Pat Bev?
Not over.
I don't know if like's the right way. Are we willing to play him? I don't know if we like him necessarily, right? He should be fine, though. What is he on FanDuel? He's 4.5 on FanDuel. Which is, again, the FanDuel prices are tough. It's tough to build stuff you like over there right now. I think he's like in the pool. I don't know, Bobby, you got a thought as far as Pat Bev? On DK, he's 4.5 also. And usually when they're the same price, it's a better play on FanDuel. And again, FanDuel's a little bit tighter as well. So I think he's in play.
Yeah, Pat Bev's definitely in play. Like I said, though, Oubre is the guy you want from Philly outside of Embiid.
We got crunch time officially here. You got Kevin Roth. Hopefully, no remnants from yesterday pre-show. We're good to go. SquirrelPatrol and the TJ McConnell doppelganger. It's Taylor Smith with the most soothing voice in the business. Roth, you mentioned it yesterday, or somebody mentioned it in chat. Maybe you're speaking on behalf of chat. We have to. Shouldn't Taylor be doing like voiceovers or like reading like children's stories, or just be on NPR or something like that? I want to hear that voice as I want it to be accessible and available.
I think
it's very
NPR,
comforting.
like late night NPR, is the answer, and it doesn't even matter. He could just read the encyclopedia. It doesn't even matter, but it would get ratings.
Yeah. You ever think about doing voiceover work, Taylor?
Special fee. What was that?
You ever think you got to get? I just want like a 5 or 10% kickback. Nothing too outrageous. I'll book you some. Okay. I know some people. in the business. Don't count on it. Sorry, but maybe it's just me. I don't know. But I'll order it a la carte. All right, Roth, 7-gamer. It's kind of a wild slate. I'm curious to hear what you guys have to say. But do you want to answer the poll question, Roth? The poll question was, would you rather go to the big game, wink, wink, or 3 World Series games? And you can also sort of like go off the board and say like you want to sit front row NBA, front row MMA or something like that. You can sit wherever you want basically for a sporting event. What is it's neutral? You don't know who's playing. That doesn't matter. You can't say your favorite team.
It's sure as hell is not 3 World Series games. That's dead last. That one's coming in dead last.
Big baseball.
Front row at the NBA is probably what I would want to do. I tried to do it for the Spurs Houston, because Spurs are coming here to Houston and I want to see Wemby. I'm a huge basketball nut. But if you want front row at like in San Antonio, it's kind of cheap. It's doable. But when Wemby's on the road, you can't swing it. The tickets are outrageous. It's like, $2 grand or something to try to get like some real sick seats. So lower bowl, but had to stop it at like $200. I'm not getting crazy here, Dean.
You probably can get them pretty cheap in Washington, Squirrel. I don't know if you've seen Wemby. I'm not sure if Wemby's been in town just yet, but Wizards tickets don't feel like they're going to be very pricey these days.
No, I don't think so. Although you can go see the new coach tonight, I guess. Yeah, I think the game's in DC, so you can go see the new coach. They just had a little bit of turnover there.
Keith, I believe, is the name. Is that correct? Keith?
Yeah, they elevated like the lead assistant. I think you're right.
All right. Give me the player before we step aside and get out of here. We want myself and TJ and Bobby. Give us a player who's going to break the slate. TJ, you're just going to say Embiid, aren't you? Like that's what everybody's going to. I mean, come on. We're all playing Embiid. But feel free to be as ambitious as you want to be. What do you got?
Yeah, I mean, he is going to be the one who breaks the slate, but I think the Jazz player to break the slate in terms of value is going to be Walker Kessler.
Bobby, C. Walker Kessler and Rays TJ.
I'm going to go De'Aaron Fox. Is that fair?
it.
I know it's a value play, but I like De'Aaron
Nobody's
Fox.
playing him. Nobody's playing Fox. Like 1% for real, which is kind of wild. All right, that's Bobby Gomes. That is TJ. We do appreciate y'all watching the first portion. Now we're going to yield to Crunch Time, the FanDuel sponsor Crunch Time. You got Squirrel Patrol, you got Taylor Smith, and you got Kevin Roth. Roth, take it away.
Good stuff. Welcome to it, ladies and gents. It is Crunch Time, sponsored, as Dino mentioned, by FanDuel. It's the show you get two of the sharpest minds in the biz, plus a random weatherman who likes hoops. We got Taylor in the house, a.k.a. TJ McConnell. What up, Taylor?
Yeah, I'd never gotten TJ McConnell before. I don't know if you remember several years ago, there was a Laker named Ryan Kelly who was very bad and played off the bench. I got comps to him. He was kind of one of those guys you'd play in April when the season was lost and, things got really ugly in DFS. But TJ McConnell, I will accept.
Oh, yeah. No, I can see this as well. Yeah, I can see the Ryan Kelly. We had to do a quick Google. I have no idea who he is, but yeah, I see the vibes. We got Squirrel as well in the house. Squirrel, who was your NBA comp? Who was your doppelganger in the NBA?
Yeah, I get Joel Embiid a lot.
I see it. I see the resemblance now. Hey, before we dive into it, I do believe that just a couple nights ago, maybe 2-3 nights ago, you punched another ticket to a thing. You do that a lot, so you'll have to fill me in on the details.
Yeah, it's King of the Desert for DraftKings next month. So it'll be it's not at Super Bowl, but like Super Bowl weekend at the Waste Management Open, actually in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is supposed to be like a great golf tournament to go to. And DraftKings has like a sports book like on the golf course, so we'll be there.
That's amazing.
For the Super Bowl, yeah. And it is. I only count like those play down live finals if I get to the very last round. So it's officially live final seat number 99.
Nice. Congratulations. Yeah, that's the tournament. It's like the one golf tournament where people they get shit-faced and they yell and heckle and it gets wild, right?
16th hole, yeah. Like apparently 16th hole, everybody just goes berserk. So
that sounds like a blast. All right. Well, congratulations for you, as doing what you do. Making live finals appearances certainly sounds like a fun one. We got to dive into it with a hint of JJ Barea was what you got there, Squirrel. Steve Blake with a hint of JJ Barea. I could see it. You approve?
Yeah, actually, I've met Steve Blake. Like I think we're about the same age, and he went to Maryland. So I used to see him around like in Georgetown and stuff.
Okay, yeah, you have the actual Spider-Man meme where you two are pointing at each other. All right, hey, let's dive into this slate a little bit here. We've got 34 minutes by my calculation until lock. So catch me up, Taylor. Why don't you let me know what's been happening and what is still yet to happen?
Yeah, well, a little while ago we got Hartenstein out for the Knicks, Tobias Harris as well for Philly. So that should open up some value, particularly on the Philly side. We are still waiting on things like Mike Conley, LeBron, questionable after missing the other night. I don't really have a read. I assume he will play, but that's a pure guess. AD is also questionable. So it seems like he's been playing through whatever he's dealing with, but officially not in yet. So probably won't get that news during the show, but you never know.
Okay. We got a few more Squirrels doppelgangers here. We got Caruso, which is pretty good. And then we got Scott Skiles, which is It's super good.
He had like 20-something assists in the game. I'll take that.
Yeah, that's a good one right there. All right, let's dive into it here. This show sponsored by FanDuel, of course. So we like to start with a FanDuel cash build. And Taylor, you are the man with the plan in that department.
Yes, sir. So starting at point guard, as of now, it kind of looks like a value-y position. The one kind of spendy point guard that pops in the lineups is Maxey on FanDuel. He does get a big usage boost with Tobias out, and the matchup against Indiana is a really good one. But not popping into necessarily the top optimals on FanDuel. I do think he is in play. If you are going cheaper, some of the names popping are Colin Sexton for Utah. We're going to get to a lot of Utah on DK, not so much on FanDuel, but some of them are still squarely in play. He's 7-7, so he's, I think, 1,100 cheaper on DK, but still viable on FanDuel with a very high floor he's shown lately. And they're playing the Wizards, which is probably the best matchup on the slate. Malik Monk for Sacramento. Good cash play on both sides. He's 6-5 on FanDuel. He's been kind of down over the last few games, but in general, his minutes have been up in recent weeks. Mike Brown doesn't really have a deep collection of players he trusts seemingly in his rotation, and Malik Monk is in the circle of trust, it seems, so I think he's viable in cash. TJ McConnell, the aforementioned TJ McConnell, even off the bench, is a good per minute guy for Indiana. On the other side of that Philly game, not a great matchup, but he's still only 5-5, and the per minute production is good enough to make him playable off the bench. Clarkson, maybe a guy you can consider. Patrick Beverly as well. Probably coming off the bench for Philly, but 4-5, where value is hard to come by. I think he's fine. Moving to shooting guard, Kelly Oubre now looks like a core play with Tobias out. Should start, play plenty of minutes on the wing for the Sixers. Great spot against Indiana. Let's see. Malik Monk again, Colin Sexton. A lot of the same names we had at point guard, we have at shooting guard. So moving to small forward, Markkanen looks great, 8-4. That matchup against the Wizards is outstanding. He is one of their leading usage guys, so looks like a good way to kind of spend in the mid-range at 8-4 tonight. Deni Avdija on the other side of that game. The minutes are always there. Not a great usage guy, but still decent per minute. Who knows? Maybe his usage goes up a little with the new coach. It's always possible. A value guy that kind of pops is Daniel House. He's 3-8 on FanDuel. He's quite bad per minute. Not going to get a lot of usage, but we do have him projected to start. With the Sixers down, not only Tobias, but Marcus Morris and Robert Covington. So should be some minutes there for him. Obviously, I'd feel a lot better if he does start. Shifting to power forward, Markkanen here, Avdija, Jonathan Kuminga. He made all 11 of his shots last night, so not expecting that again, but you never know. He's 6-1. Minutes have stabilized, even with Draymond back. I think he's playable. And Sabonis, if you want to spend out for 10-2, is a really good value against Golden State on the other side of that game. He kind of looks like the top spend for cash on FanDuel at this point. And at center, Sabonis is the guy popping here. Nick Claxton, seemingly always in play. Not the greatest matchup for him against Minnesota, however. And then Bam Adebayo looks good. Boston, Miami's not the best game environment, but had a decently reasonable spread, and Bam is a little underpriced relative to his upside, so I don't mind that for cash at 8-9.
Okay, very good. Squirrel, I'm getting some names in the chat that are not pretty names, like Korkmaz, Fontecchio, Batum. Like, are these dudes that we're playing? Is that where we're at?
We gotta wait and see what the Sixers starting lineup is. And the Pacers maybe to some extent. I'm kind of assuming that TJ McConnell's not going to start. It's interesting because we're getting like some very different value on the two different sites. But then it's like kind of forcing Joel Embiid into everything. I kind of don't like the cash lineup for like the cash lineups for tournaments tonight.
Okay,
we did get Beverly actually starting for the Sixers just now.
Okay, yeah, interesting. So that probably like dampens the Daniel House a little bit, and it's a little bit like less value. And I'm going to probably end up under the field in Joel Embiid because I think everyone's going to be chasing this value. We'll see. I guess that's coming out like pretty early.
Yeah. And before you move on, can I dig a little deeper on the you don't love cash lineups in tournaments? Do you just feel like maybe the chalk today isn't great chalk? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, and a lot of the value is on the same teams, and that it's now like Philadelphia and particularly like Philadelphia on FanDuel and on DraftKings, it's Utah, and I just don't see all these guys hitting at the same time. Okay. And so I think there's going to be a bunch of lineups and it sometimes does happen. Sometimes we get these situations, and it's like, okay, everybody's like projects really well, and because they're all just too cheap, and they do have all have a like pretty good game, and then you have a lineup like 5 guys from the same team on the winning lineup. And I feel like more often than not, what happens is like a couple of these guys are just going to fail. Yeah. And when they fail, it's going to wipe out a bunch of lineups that are using like 4 Philadelphia guys on FanDuel or like 5 Utah guys on DraftKings.
Okay.
So yeah, the general like slate overview. But I can go like position by position.
Yeah, let's do it. And you said it's different on FanDuel and DK, so of course we will start with FanDuel, and then we'll get your DK thoughts a little later.
Sure. Yeah, it's a little bit some pretty like bigger differences than we normally see between the two sites tonight. So like on point guard, I think Patrick Beverley on FanDuel now like 4,500 against Indiana is like a pretty good option. I also like Tyrese Maxey, same team, same position. I think either one of those guys. I wrote Tyrese Maxey up in my article and like on the expert surveys, like one of my top plays. Indiana gives up a bunch of points in the paint, and so it's like tempting to go to Embiid, but he's super expensive. And like the fast pace that Indiana plays at, like kind of feels more like a Tyrese Maxey game. I don't think people are going to be on him as much as they should after Embiid just went berserk a couple nights ago. So like Tyrese Maxey, Malik Monk was a little bit underpriced. Like he's had a couple of bad games in a row and they dropped his price. I don't think it's like just like any reason to be really concerned. And then tournament plays, Jordan Clarkson, but I like limiting my Utah guys unless I'm running it back with some Washington guys. De'Aaron Fox and Tyus Jones could be one of the Washington guys you run it back with. Great. Shooting guard, Kelly Oubre is now going to look really good with Tobias Harris out. Malik Monk also shooting guard eligible. Klay Thompson is like way underpriced on FanDuel relative to DraftKings. He's like more expensive on DraftKings. And then Austin Reeves, I think, is in play even if like LeBron and AD both end up playing. And then if one of them sits, he's going to look really, really good. Small forward, still Kelly Oubre. Lauri Markkanen is like the one Utah guy I really like on both sites. And Washington, Washington's not giving up as many points recently, like over the last 10 games as they have for most of the season. But they still get killed on the boards. So Lauri Markkanen is like definitely in play. I think he's got like at least 21 points and 9 rebounds in 8 of his last 9 games. DeMar DeRozan's a guy you can play. He's just like, he's underpriced. He's like a little bit underpriced. Like if you end up at 8,000 and need a small forward, play DeMar DeRozan. I don't like love it, but he does it. It's a pretty good game sometimes. And like Denny Avdia, I think he's a guy, could benefit from the coaching change a little bit. Like I said, like if I was the coach, I'd have Denny Avdia shoot more and Jordan Poole shoot a lot less. Power forward, same guys, Markkanen, Avdia, Jonathan Kuminga, getting a little bit more of him like in the power forward position. Some Kyle Kuzma as well, and then Domantas Sabonis. Center, Embiid, like if you have the money, obviously Embiid's in play. I think he's like top 10 in points in the paint in the NBA, and Indiana gives up the most points in the paint. But I feel like it's more of like a transition thing than a really getting killed inside kind of thing.
Right.
And then Nick Claxton is underpriced on FanDuel, and you can get some Vucevic as well.
Okay, very good. We should note, as I mentioned, this show sponsored by FanDuel. If you bet $5, you get $150 in bonus bets for new users in Arizona, Colorado, Illinois, Indiana, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Maryland, Massachusetts, Michigan, New Jersey, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. If you are in the great state of Vermont, you now have access to the FanDuel Sportsbook as well. Special offer, bet $5, get $200 in bonus bets on any market. Terms and conditions apply. Must be 21 and up. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Shout out to FanDuel for sponsoring the show, keeping it free for you. We're not asking you to pay, but we are asking you to hit that little thumbs up for us there down at the bottom of the screen so that we get some eyeballs. A thumbs up, a subscribe, all of those things would be very, very useful. with that, we will kick it on over to DK and Taylor. I think I'm going to start entering. I haven't done anything today, so walk me through my build here.
Yeah, so even with the update with the Sixers news and the Beverly starting thing, the current optimal on DK per our projections has 6 Jazz men and 2 Sixers. So there's still going to be heavy ownership on these Utah guys against Washington. Obviously, in tournaments, you're going to want to limit that number of Jazz. But in cash, you don't really care about the negative correlation. You're all about the value. So going to be getting to a lot of them, starting at the guards. Colin Sexton, like I said, for 6'6" is underpriced relative to his role. Starting for Utah at the point. Chris Dunn, another starter for them. You can play him at point guard or small forward, which is useful. He maybe makes more sense as a small forward option, just because guard generally has better plays. A few non-Jazz to consider: Malik Monk again, Patrick Beverly again. Mike Conley's fine if he plays. He's been dealing with an illness, didn't play the last 2 games, but still waiting on an update on his status. Not the best matchup for them against Brooklyn, but he is cheap. And Maxey, like we were saying, is a good spot for him. Usage goes up without Harris. Shooting guard, Kelly Oubre you can play here. Jordan Clarkson is shooting guard only. Clarkson for 6'2" just looks like a decent value. Wide range of outcomes, but against the Wizards, we're hoping that he will reach the upper echelon there to his range of outcomes. Oubre is just an easy cash play for 5'2". Guard forward eligibility is very handy. Monk you can play here. I think that kind of wraps it up for shooting guard. Small forward Oubre again, Dunn again. Simone Fontecchio, yet another punt Jazz option in the starting lineup. Lowry Markkanen as the spend at 8K flat is just too cheap for the spot and his role with this team. I don't mind Pat Williams as a value. He's playing more minutes with Levine out. Gives you exposure to that late game. So perhaps, if you save a couple spots for the late game and LeBron happens to sit, maybe you can pivot down to someone like Rui, who would probably start again if James is out. DeMar DeRozan is another really good, solid cash play. The 3 big bulls, DeRozan, Vucevic, and White, are all a little cheap on DK. DeMar's not necessarily popping into the top optimals, but I'm still happy to go there in cash. And like I said, if you want to, play for the late news, then having at least 2 spots open makes sense. Denny Avdia, again, another decent mid-range play, but that is an early game. Josh Hart, maybe more of a filler than anything else. And at center, Embiid, very easy to get to for 11.6 on DK. I think you just do that in cash. He's going to be mega popular. Upside obviously speaks for itself, and he does get a usage boost without Tobias. So I think that's the obvious cash center. Walker Kessler, Kelly Olynyk, a couple of cheaper ones you can consider, since you can obviously play multiple centers on DK. John Collins, another Jazz guy. Sabonis is fine. He looks like a bigger priority on FanDuel, but good spot for him as well on DK.
Okay, great. Squirrel, I want your tournament thoughts here on DK. What's your build looking like? And can you kind of break down some of this value? And, you mentioned, you don't think all 6 of these guys are going off, but are you picking and choosing, or you just have an even field and you're hoping you get the right combination?
Sure. So I think right now, in terms of value on both sites, I actually think Patrick Beverly moving into the starting lineup projects very well. So he's the guy that I would prioritize. Of the Utah guys on DraftKings, I think the real question is how do you decide between these Utah guys? I'd prefer to get to the spend ups. And now that we have some value on Philadelphia, I think you can do that more than you maybe could 20 minutes ago. So I like Lauri Markkanen. I like Jordan Clarkson. I probably like Clarkson a little bit more than Sexton relative, but it's very close. The rest of the guys, like Chris Dunn, I think is a little tenuous. I think he's a good pivot from Clarkson or Sexton. I don't want to play Clarkson, Sexton, and Dunn in the same lineup. Kelly Olynyk is now, yes, projecting pretty well for the dollar, but I don't know if I really want to play. He's 3,600 power forward. Again, it seems like a guy that he might look good on paper, but I don't know that he's really going to get you that tournament winning score. So yeah, so that's kind of my breakdown of the
Okay. Okay, that's great. Why don't you walk me through a build here, position by position on DK as well?
Sure. So point guard, like other than the Utah guys like Sexton and Chris Dunn, I like getting like Tyrese Maxey again if you can spend up. Malik Monk, same thing as FanDuel, kind of underpriced, no particular reason. Alex Caruso is something I'm getting more of on DraftKings and on FanDuel, and it provides you some like late swap possibilities if should something happen in that Lakers starting lineup. So basically, everybody with Chicago, I kind of like getting to them just because like it's potential late swap should there be like shenanigans later in the night. And that Lakers Chicago game is the last game of the night, so there's nothing to like swap to. Shooting guard, same guys, it's like Sexton and then Jordan Clarkson, Malik Monk, and then Kelly Oubre is shooting guard eligible on DraftKings. Small forward is where you start to see Lauri Markkanen. Also some Kelly Oubre. DeMar DeRozan is somebody that's like, again, just like FanDuel. Like he never seems like he never goes berserk, but he's the best guy for his price. And still I like being able to field Deni Avdija even on DraftKings. He's not quite as well priced, but I think that's okay. Power forward, getting some John Collins. I don't love it. I might even try to get less John Collins. But like in terms of real tournament plays, like Patrick Williams, again, like a bowl, it's kind of cheap. They can turn into somebody else if you need to, but he doesn't have to. He's fine for the price as he is. Pascal Siakam, if you want to spend up and get kind of different from some of the Indiana value, it's an interesting way to flip the build. Getting some Jonathan Kuminga, but not as much as on FanDuel. Then center position, Joel Embiid is cheaper on DraftKings than on FanDuel. So I'm getting more of him on DraftKings. Then it's a bunch of Utah guys like Olynyk, Walker Kessler, and John Collins. Don't love any of those guys. I would rather try to just totally change the build and get Sabonis or Siakam.
Gotcha. Okay. Very good. Guys, we still have 15 whole minutes for some QQs. Taylor, anything that you want to add in before we dive into it?
No, I think we're ready to roll.
Okay, then I think that is exactly what we should do. Let's see what I got. Pulling up the RG Discord here. FanDuel single entry from Jay Sams. Scroll, this is a two-part question. If this is okay, we'll allow it. Do you think it's okay for going value at both point guard spots and building something like Fox and Maxey? And then there's a whole other not related one that we'll get to later.
Yeah, no, I think that's good. I think that's kind of a good idea. It's I think everyone's gonna get to this very similar roster constructions. So doing kind of double spend up. I know Patrick Beverley does project pretty well. Let me see. I don't know if he has I don't know if any of these guys have multi-position eligibility. Yeah, I still think it's fine. I'd maybe try to get Beverley into your lineup and then forgo Maxey or Fox. But I like the idea of playing one of them.
Okay, great. How would you rank them on FanDuel if LeBron is out, Taylor? Pat Williams, Vanderbilt, and Rui. Where do they rank? Right now he's got Pat as the placeholder.
Yeah, Rui would be number one. He would start, we think. And then Williams and Vanderbilt, I'd put Williams ahead of Vanderbilt.
Rui is high on my, does he ever get there list? Has he ever gotten there? Has he ever had a little flame emoji by his name ever in Rui history?
It's a good question.
Yeah,
especially Wood's been doing really well. And Rui just never seems to get there. Just the thought.
Mm-hmm.
Man, it's killing me, man. Let's see what else we got here. FanDuel cash question, Taylor. Embiid, Kuminga, or Sabonis DDR?
Oh, God. It's scary to fade Embiid, but the second one sounds better just because Kuminga, I think, has a wide range of outcomes.
That is fair. All right, we'll go to Ball's question. Can you rank the Jazz in DK cash? And then in parentheses, who are the musts? And I know that's maybe the hardest question. Is that the whole slate? Kind of trying to figure out what to do there, Taylor?
Yeah, I think the guys you want are Sexton and Markkanen primarily. I don't think you actually have to have these punts. Dunn and Olynyk can easily play less than 20 minutes, and they just may not be guys you have to have, but they are cheap, and the slate lacks really great value. Yeah, but I think Sexton and Markkanen are the only absolute musts. Honorable mention would be Clarkson, I guess.
Okay. Someone in the Cuz in the chat says, pretty sure Rui has a 50 burger. I refuse to believe it. He must have had like 18
50 real
blocks and
points.
steals.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well,
the
no,
Lakers?
certainly not. Maybe. All right. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he has a 50 burger somewhere. Squirrel, you mentioned Christian Wood. What are your thoughts on Christian Wood tonight?
So I like him a lot more on DraftKings. Like FanDuel is like priced for his outlier games. He's not on DraftKings. So I mean, obviously, like I'm a lot more interested if like 80 sits in Christian Wood. I just like he seems to always outperform, at least in terms of like fantasy production.
Mhm.
And nobody ever plays him, and he's still at like 3,600. So I just think he's like maybe a guy that you can get to, and he probably won't kill you at 3,600 if you're playing him. And maybe a little like placeholder just in case like Anthony Davis out, or maybe you're just making the gamble. Davis is out, like, and I think Davis is probably going to play anyway. But like Christian Wood, and he can put up like points fast. So
he can, yes, yeah, okay, great. Let's see. FanDuel GPP is swagging with Chris. Squirrel, you want Hart, Monk, Sabonis, or Siakam, Miles Turner, and Clarkson?
I think the first one. I don't know. I don't love the idea of like playing Miles Turner and Pascal Siakam because they're like competing for rebounds and stuff together.
Okay. All right. That's a good point because he says any Turner or Siakam love tonight, and you're okay with either, but maybe not together.
Yeah, I'd probably prefer Siakam out of the two. But I think either one is okay. But I don't know if I'd necessarily put it together.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. Scrolling up in the YouTube chat, taking some QQs. William Holyfield, great name by the way, says, "What about Ao Desumo for 4,600?" I assume that's a tournament question. Squirrel.
I think I'm getting a little bit of Desumo in on DraftKings. He's what is he? Yeah, 4,600. And I like all the bulls. I'm kind of say yes to just in case we get like some Laker out, and you can like then swap around with them.
Gotcha. Makes sense. Okay. We'll go to Triple B Collectibles. Says, anybody playing Joker? Scroll, how much Joker do you have? And how much Embiid do you have?
I have a lot more Embiid than Jokic.
Naturally.
Like, Jokic just isn't the same like fantasy producer since like Jamal Murray's back. And Embiid's just going berserk every season. So probably just like reverse mush Jokic into like a historic game.
Of course. That's how it goes. But okay, it makes sense. This is a good question, Taylor. Which Jazz would you not pair together on FanDuel? We can call it kind of from a tournament perspective, I guess, if you can kind of put your tournament hat on for me, Taylor. Which Jazz would you not pair together on FanDuel?
Yeah, I think Kessler and Collins are probably negatively correlated a little bit. So those are the first two that stand out. I guess you could make a case for Sexton and Clarkson, but I do think both have high enough ceilings and the matchup's good enough to where you don't really have to group them out. Okay. I think Collins, Kessler, and Olynyk, maybe like a max one of that three is probably the main one I would focus on.
Very nice. Okay. We got a question from Mr. Irrelevant, and it is a long question here. Squirrel, I'm giving this to you. McConnell and Kuminga, or P-Bev and Murray? Oh, that's actually the whole question. It wasn't a long question. He also just said, hey, we've got 500 people watching and only 110 likes. That is not acceptable. Smash the thumbs up for this great free content and to help keep it free. He's doing my job for me. He's right, though. Smash that like button. The question, Squirrel, was McConnell and Kuminga or P-Bev and Murray?
McConnell and the one with Murray.
Okay. All right. That's Keegan Murray, yeah. I assume, right?
Yeah, I think it was Kuminga, McConnell, or P-Bev and Keegan Murray.
Yes, I would P-Bev and Keegan Murray.
Yeah, I'd go with P-Bev and Keegan Murray.
Okay, very good. Let's see what else we got here. Michael Porter or John Collins, FanDuel GPP. Taylor, who do you prefer?
Michael Porter wasn't really on my radar. Let me see how much he is. 6'6". Yeah, I guess they project pretty comparably. Collins' minutes floor is lower, so MPJ.
Okay, MPJ it is. Ron says, DK GPP Scroll, are Fontecchio and Markkanen negatively correlated, or can you do lineups with both of them?
I think you can do lineups with both of them. I don't love the idea of playing all of like the Jazz guards together, but like Fontecchio and Markkanen should be okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay. FanDuel cash question from Aside. Taylor, Bagley, Embiid, or Kuz and Sabonis?
Don't love Bagley for cash off the bench behind Gafford. I think he benefited from foul trouble the other night. So the second one, I think that's a bonus.
Okay. This is just kind of an overall question here. When running the current off-on for Philly, it's a very short sample size of minutes when you run into this situation with these specific guys out. So how do you go about getting accurate fantasy points per minute in that situation? Do we just kind of rely on a combination of what these guys do and our instincts, Taylor? Do you have a...
I think the main thing would be to take off Tobias because he's the biggest usage guy that they're missing. The other ones like Marcus Morris, Covington, whoever, Melton. Like Melton and Tobias, maybe the two you can take off. I don't know. That might be a really small sample too, but
it's a good idea though.
Yeah.
Don't remove everyone, especially the people who don't really matter.
Yeah, like the low per minute guys aren't going to make a huge difference, I don't think. So take off like Melton and Tobias are normal starters. So that's what
gotcha. Okay, very good. DKGPP question, Squirrel. We've got 5 or so minutes here. Collins or Batum?
Ooh. John Collins or Nick Batum? Gotta go John Collins. I don't love it. He's going to see like much higher ownership, I think. I'd be okay if you want to play Batum. Like it's a little riskier. I just like don't love all these Jazz.
Yeah, you don't seem to love either of those plays, really. DK Cash question, Taylor. If I'm not playing a few slots until late, what possible slate changing news is left besides Laker? Like we know we're waiting on that Laker news. Is there anything else we're waiting on? Late?
The Conley game is at 7:30, so we should get that news momentarily. If he's out, I think you can go back to Alexander Walker as a value for 4 or 5. And maybe Kyle Anderson. Not in love with that, but I think that's really all we're waiting on, just the Lakers and Conley.
Okay, great. FanDuel Cash. Actually, it's just FanDuel generic, but Taylor, I'll give it to you. Saric or Bags? You said you didn't love Bagley, I do believe.
No, I think Saric was still starting last night, even with Draymond in. So I don't know. I guess Bagley's good per minute. You can roll the dice there. Neither of them look very appealing, though.
Okay, that's fair. Brian says, Squirrel, how much Herter do you have in a DK GPP? Do you know roughly what percentage you have?
I don't think I have any Herter.
Ooh, roughly 0%. Whoa, buddy. Pulling them from my player pool here. DK raw points, Squirrel, Gafford, Bagley, or Draymond? Raw points, who gets more? Gafford, Bagley, or Draymond?
I think Gafford, yeah. Gafford.
Okay. We'll go to We Majors question, Squirrel. You got any Keegan Murray on FanDuel?
I don't think... yeah, so like 7%.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
What else do we got here? More questions coming in from the YouTube. Squirrel, you fading the Warriors in a DK GPP?
Yeah, I don't have a bunch of Warriors. I would say like Jonathan Kuminga is probably my favorite of the Warriors. And even that, it's like 10%.
Okay, great. William Holyfield says, Taylor, no Dinwiddie tonight. Do you give up on him? Does that mean is he not playing, or are we not playing him? Which does he mean?
He got really cheap. He's down to 5'2". He was 5'6" the other night and played 19 minutes. And the coach said that he's going to ride the hot hand. So it's possible. I don't think it's a bad tournament play, especially in a bad matchup. No one's going there. Mm-hmm. Obviously, there's a very low floor and a lot of risk, but I do see the appeal because he's so cheap.
Squirrel, you get to any Dinwiddie? You seeing that same path if he is the hot hand?
Yeah, his minutes have been really variable. I don't love that game on especially on DraftKings. Like it's the lowest point total game on the slate. So I'm not playing a ton of it.
Okay. All right. What do we got? DK here, Squirrel, Curry or Maxey? Maxey's your boy.
Yeah, Maxey.
Yeah, he's your boy tonight. Ali says DK GPP. Taylor, I'm going to give this one to you. Collins, Batum, or Abdi Dunn?
Slightly in Collins Batum. I just don't love the done minutes at ownership.
Okay. Squirrel, Kuz or Bridges?
Oh, Kuzma.
TJ, this is a FanDuel GPP Squirrel coming right back to you here. TJ McConnell and Dorian Finney-Smith. I've seen a couple people bring his name up. Or Pritchard Batum.
I'd go with the TJ McConnell, Dorian Finney-Smith.
Okay. FanDuel cash question from a side. Taylor, Kuz, Batum, or Lowry and Mathurin?
I think Kuz Batum is a little safer just because I don't trust Mathurin.
Okay. Very good. We have less than 2 minutes until lock. Get those final lineups in. Get those final questions in as well. See if we've got anything we need to address here. Just checking the Discord, checking the YouTube. For the most part, we have caught up on all these questions. Kuz Batum, Lauren Markkinen. Okay, well, since you guys didn't get a question and you get an important read, this actually is noteworthy here because we are well in the process of getting things knocked out for Sim Labs. It is the expert DFS lineup generation tool from RotoGrinders and Fantasy Labs. You can now use it for both NFL and NBA. Just a few clicks, you can have hundreds of well-built correlated lineups, whatever contest you're playing. If you're running out of time before lock, it's a perfect time. I mean, you might need more than a minute, which is all we have left here. But you can quickly build a set of lineups, filling out your entries. You can see who's fallen under the radar. Use it to examine players in the field who others may be sleeping on. Important note, all combo subscribers have access to both NFL and NBA Sim Labs, while sport-specific premium subs will have access to that corresponding sport in Sim Labs. That makes sense. If you're paying for NBA, we're not going to give you NFL Sim Labs. That'd be silly. Any love for Kuminga tonight from Edgar on DK? Squirrel, you said he is your most loved warrior, but even then, it's not like, woo.
Yeah, so I'm getting a lot of them on FanDuel. I think like 40%. I think I said 10% on DraftKings. It's actually a little bit higher. I like more like 15.
Okay. Why was it 40% on FanDuel? Was it a positional thing or a price thing?
Yeah, so he's 5,800 on DraftKings and 61 on FanDuel, but like we have more salary cap on FanDuel, like 10,000 more. It's like relatively, I think it's more on FanDuel. He also like fills a small forward position on FanDuel.
Yeah, I see. Very good. Hey, with that, guess what we've done? We've hit the lock. We've gotten the thank yous. The best thank you you can give us, though, is not typing in thank you, though we do appreciate that. It's making sure you mash that thumbs up right there. That's the button. You see it. It's down at the bottom of the screen. Guys, thanks for hanging out with us here. So for Taylor, for Squirrel, for our wonderful production crew, always working hard behind the scenes. Guys, we appreciate you. We love you. And we will catch you tomorrow. You have been crushed.